Let's talk to Gareth Davis, MP, Shadow Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury. Gareth, a very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We just saw some migrants crossing from France now. I mean, it's hard to believe that so soon after the tragedy of yesterday that there's yet more boats coming. It seems like a completely and utterly unfixable problem, this, doesn't it?
Well, first of all, it is absolutely a tragedy what happened yesterday in the Channel. It's one of several that have happened, as you know, over the last few years. Yeah. And I hold the gangs responsible for this. They're exploiting these people. They're taking their life savings and then putting them on these boats. That's why in government we had a deterrent policy ready to go in place that Labour have now abandoned. They have no alternative plan, no deterrent, and they urgently need to come up with something now that they're in government, because this kind of thing will keep happening. These tragedies will keep happening unless there is a deterrent, unless there's a serious plan in place beyond the rhetoric of just smashing the gangs, whatever that means for Labour. We've got to do something about this.
Well, this is it. I mean, John Rentoul just said there that, well, they're making some progress. You know, if they manage to deport more people and send more people home, then that will be a start. Well, it will be if it happens, but it isn't happening.
Well, we put in place in government agreements, for example, with Albania, which ensured that Albanian individuals, mainly young men, declined by 90% as a result of an agreement with the government of Albania to send those people back. And I think that's clearly a very important part of this, which is to identify who is coming across, where they're coming from, and to have agreements in place to ensure that they can go back to where they came from, especially if they're coming from safe countries like Albania. But as I said, we had in place in government a policy of deterrent through the Rwanda scheme, through third-party, third-country processing, just like they have in other countries around the world, like Australia. Labour have abandoned this policy without a replacement, and they need to urgently clarify what their plan is to tackle these boat crossings so that more tragedies do not happen in the Channel.
Let's talk about Rachel Reeves. I mean, she said this week that pensioners basically can afford a winter fuel cut because prices of energy are not as high as they were last year, and that their pension is worth £900 more than it was last year. I mean, that's a pretty callous thing to come out with, isn't it?
It's incredible, given that, yes, the state pension has gone up by some £900 thanks to the Conservative implemented triple lock, and that resulted in a significant increase in the state pension over the last few years. But just on this winter fuel payment, it's a choice, a political choice, to take this support away from pensioners, while at the same time handing out massive bumper pay to public sector unions. That is a political choice. She needs to own that. And by the way, the last thing on this, during the general election, I raised this in the House of Commons yesterday and got no answer. During the general election, the Labour Party made it very clear that they would cut everybody's bill, energy bill, by £300. They are now abandoning that pledge. They will not confirm that that is still party policy. And in fact, bills are going up by 10%. So instead of cutting them, they're going up by 10%, and they're withdrawing the winter fuel allowance from pensioners. It's not good enough.
No, it really isn't. No, they don't mention that 300 quid. I mean, shortly before the election actually happened, they more or less walked away from it, saying that, oh, well, it might not be £300, it might be a bit less. Oh, well, it might be over 5 years. Oh, well, actually, it might not be anything at all. And we still don't really know what the Great British Energy Corporation business is all about. I mean, I don't know whether they formed it. I don't know whether they've appointed anybody to run it. I don't know what it's supposed to be doing. Meanwhile, we've got Ed Miliband coming out saying that we've got this great new plan to build a load of wind farms off the coast of North Yorkshire. But according to a piece this morning in the Telegraph, it's going to cost us all about £150 extra.
Well, you're right to point out GB Energy, which is their flagship energy policy. In terms of where that's at, they're going to try and legislate for that this week and get that through the House of Commons. But let's be clear what this is. This is a state-run energy company that produces no energy. By the way, at a time when they are saying that there's this fictitious black hole in the public finances, they're going to spend £8.5 billion on it. Right. So which is it? You know, either the public finances are strained or they're not, in which case if they are, why spend such a significant amount of taxpayer money on an organisation that will produce no energy and will not lower bills at a time when they've abandoned their commitment to cut energy bills by £300? I just don't get it.
Well, everything they seem to be doing involves hiring more people as well. It seems to me that they're kind of packing the super state. We just heard from John Rentoul there again that, you know, they lost one civil servant they put in place because of his donation that he made to the party, Ian Caulfield. But they seem to be creating more quangos. They seem to be creating more sort of work for, you know, people who do that sort of thing. Nobody really knows who they are because nobody knows what the qualifications are for running such organisations. And it's kind of ridiculous what's going on. But because you're, you know, not really in a position to object to much of it, we just have to all swallow it, don't we?
Well, we are doing what we can in opposition to oppose these policies. We always knew that they would make the state bigger. We knew that they wanted to raise taxes, and inevitably every Labour government increases debt and unemployment. So we know what the playbook is for Labour. I mentioned it many times in the run-up to the election and during the election, and now in opposition we have to try and hold them to account, and working with people like you to ensure that the public know exactly what they are doing to our country. It's not what I believe in. I don't believe that we should have a bigger state. I think we should have a smaller state that works more efficiently. Classic example, giving bumper pay rises to public sector unions without asking for anything in return. No productivity requirements, no increases in productivity in terms of public sector you know, departments, none of that. It's all just blank checks, and it's not good enough. The public are getting very alive to this. We see that in the poll ratings. We see that in Keir Starmer's approval ratings. Long may that continue on the road to the next election. I think this is going to be a one-term Labour government if they keep going the way they are. Yeah,
well, I mean, people are starting to talk the official opposition at the moment, so it's time for you guys to start rattling a few cages, I think. First round of Tory leadership voting goes on today, this afternoon, finishes at 3 o'clock. Who are you going to vote for?
So I'm backing Robert Jenrick. He's somebody I've known for a while. He's a close parliamentary neighbour of mine, somebody who I think will tackle the challenge that we have in the Reform Party, tackle the challenge that we have as a country on immigration, and somebody who has a clear plan when it comes to the economy and younger people, and offer to younger people. So for a variety of reasons, that's who's getting my vote today, and I'll see how it goes. OK. Gareth Davis, thank you very much indeed. MP, of course, Shadow Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury.